All right, so welcome to the last micro lecture within Module 2. We are going to speak in passing and in some length about console inputs and parsing. Let's do it. All right, so one of the things that we haven't spoken about to this point is making our program interactive. One of the reasons why we haven't really discussed that is because I wanted to spend a lot of time on the fundamentals of the language of C# and languages in general. Most languages have the same issues, the same pros, the same cons, the same things going on. So what do I mean by making the program interactive? Well, your program isn't a one-way street, right? Your computer isn't the only thing that is communicating with the user. You want your user to have some input into what they desire to see or what they desire to be computed by the computer. Because we're using console prolifically in this course, and I'm going to continue to do that because I don't want to get into web frameworks and things like that or graphical user interfaces, only because they differ greatly depending on what you're using. I'm going to stick to console applications and libraries at this point. So if I would like the end user to give me an input, I will ask the user for the input by using console.readline. Now, what does console.readline do? Well, console.readline does the same thing that console.writeline does in reverse. Console.writeline writes to the console. So console.readline reads from the console. And when you write console.readline into your program will stop or pause until the proper keyboard input is provided. Normally, it's looking for an escape or a return. Now, when you do console.readline, please understand that everything the user types into console.readline will be parsed to the backend code to be processed. So if you're writing a calculator that only accepts integers, it's very important that you write exceptions or you write some type of output to the user to let them know they didn't give you the input that you are looking for, because you can get some very ungraceful errors if you don't do this. Now, when you receive the value from console.readline, it is exceptionally important that you either convert or cast the value you're receiving from the readline to the proper data type for calculation. So if the end user is giving you two numbers to add, you need to make sure that you are casting that number, right? That string that they're providing you, you need to cast that or convert it to an integer so it can be parsed and calculated correctly. Talking about parsing, what's parsing? Well, up to this point, we've only spoken about reflections, which casts a value into a new data type. We've discussed conversion, which converts what is in the variable to a new data type. And then there's parsing. Now, parsing is similar to convert. Parsing is the alternative to the convert class. And basically what parsing means is to break things apart, right? And normally we use parse, or more specifically, try parse, to determine if we received the value we were looking for. So for instance, if you wanted to determine if a user sent you an integer in the form of a string, and only integers, they didn't send you alphabets as well, then you would use the int.tryparse to determine if it was an actual integer. Because if it is, then what will happen is the if statement will return true, and then the out variable will have the value of the output of that tryparse method. And hopefully I can show you what that looks like now. So let's open up Visual Studio and or REPL, and let's do it. So instead of this, right, I'm going to delete this enum because I don't need it. Let's go ahead and let's do some math again. So we're going to say we're going to say var x equals console.readline. And then we're going to give the user a thing. Please enter a number. I'm wondering if no overload takes one argument. Reads to the next line. Interesting. I can't do this. I may have to write that out before I do this. I just want to see what the library tells me I'm allowed to do. 1 second. Just want to verify what I'm allowed to do. I thought I was able to overload console.readline with a string, but I guess I can't. No, I can't. Okay. So if I want to present a message to the user, instructing them on what to do, I need to console.write or console.writeLine first. So console.writeLine, and then I will print that into the console.writeLine. And then what will happen is 6 will fire after it prints, please enter a number, and it will wait. So let's do that again. So console.writeLine, and please enter another number, y equals console.readline. Now, for all intents and purposes, let's just print x and y, and let's see if we get what we're looking for. So console.writeLine, we'll say x, nope, we will do string concatenation or string interpolation here. X, Y. All right, let's run that. Now, what it should do is it should print, please enter a number, and then wait for me to enter a number. I can enter whatever I want. There's nothing restricting me from entering an A or B or anything like that. Just because I asked the end user for a number doesn't necessarily mean that's what they're going to give me. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere to what's called the happy path. The happy path is what the user is supposed to do. There's also unhappy path, what the user may not be allowed to or should not do. We won't get too deep into unhappy path right now, but later on down the road, we'll talk about debugging an unhappy path. So please enter number 2. I didn't mean to do that. Run. I guess I was supposed to come down here with my there. Please enter number 2. Please enter another number. I'm going to enter 2 again. There it is. So x and y printed as 2 and 2. So it worked. All right. Well, let's do something more than that. Let's do the sum of again. Cool. So now x plus y will be added together when it's entered by me, the user. So let's run this again. This time we'll do 2 and 2 again, and let's see if it gives me 4 as the answer. 2, 2. It didn't. Now, why didn't it give me 4? If you want to pause the video here to go debug this to find out what actually happened, do it now. Did you figure it out? Well, the reason why 2 plus 2 equaled 2 instead of 4 is because when readline returns the value from the console, it always returns it as a string. I'll say that again. Whenever readline returns a value from the console, it always returns it as a string. And if I concatenate the string 2 with the string 2, I will get a new string of 2. If I want those two things to do the right thing, then I will have to do something very specific. Either I would need to parse it, or I would need to convert it. In this case, let's convert it and let's see what happens. So I'll say convert to int 32, or 16 is fine. And we will do the same thing. I don't want to do that there, actually. I don't really care if that one is or isn't. I care if this guy is. So we'll say int. It won't let me. Interesting. What if I said there we go. That worked. Now, in real world, I would not do this. I would not say convert because I can't restrict the end user from giving me alphabets instead of just digits in this situation because of the console. And that's a problem. Because if they give me alphanumeric characters, this is going to throw a pretty gnarly error. I'll show you in a second. But right now, let's just do a happy path. Revert to N16. Perfect. Save it, run. And I should get 2 plus 2 equals 4 because now the read line is being converted to an integer and saved to the x and y variables as integers. So when I add them together in console.writeLine, it should give me the right answer of 4. And survey says, please enter a number 2. Please enter another number 2. And there it is. 2 plus 2 equals 4. But what happens when I put in an alphabet? Let's just do this for science. What happens when the end user mucks things up? It doesn't work the way you think it should, or maybe they fat fingered it. What happens? Well, we'll say A, I should get an error here. And I do. Now, what is this error? I'm throwing this error for a reason. I want you guys to get used to seeing errors. They should not scare you. There are errors you're going to run into that you're going to see on a regular basis. Errors like object not referenced to an instance of an object, that error sucks. That basically means that whatever you're trying to do or whatever you're trying to use does not exist. There's invalid operation exception. There's cannot divide by 0 exception. There's array out of index exception for arrays that you're trying to index some larger than what it is. In this case, what we're asking the computer to do, it cannot do. And what we're asking the computer to do, we're asking it to convert a alphabet to a digit. Well, in this case, we can't do that. So if I really wanted this to work the way I wanted it to work, let me show you some new sauce. What I actually would do is I would say var x equals console.writeLine or readLine, sorry. So give me my value. Let's test to see what it is. If x, I'm sorry, int.tryparse, and this should be x, and then I need, oh, I don't remember the rest of it. 1 second. Here we are. I think that's all false, but I just want to make sure I'm not. There it is. Yep. Okay, cool. So this would be out. Yep, there we go. Out number. Perf. Cool. And no, this would be, yeah. Remember when I said do not declare variables before you use them? In this case, I would need to do this because I need the variable to exist to push that value out rather than the other way around. So let's do something. We're going to take that. We're going to take both of those, actually. We're going to do this for both numbers. Y out second number. All right. And we're going to remove this conversion. Conversions are great if you know that you know that you know you're going to get that data type you're looking for. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. You should do a try. You should do a try parse. So we have int first number. We're going to say int second number. Great. We have both memory locations allocated correctly with the correct data types. So now the program won't do what I want it to do, or it won't do what I don't want it to do in the unhappy path, because if it does not work, I can return a value that says else all right. So let's go through what I just did. At line 5, I'm asking the user for a number. At line 6, I'm asking the user to give it to me, and I'm saving it to the variable x. I then ask the user for a second number. I then ask the user to give it to me, and it saves it to variable y. Now, we don't know what those data types are going to be. So what we need to do is we need to figure out if they are the data types that we want. So with that being said, I can, and I should do this instead. No, I shouldn't, because if I do that, never mind, ignore me. Cool. No, what I should do is I should say first number here, second number here. I don't need to do this because if it comes back as true, it'll work, but that's not the point. So what's going on at 11 through 17? Well, at 11, I need the first number variable, and at 12, I need the second number variable, because when the try parse fires, it needs the value that's in X from the read line at line 6. And what it will do is, if this is true, it's going to dump that value into this variable first number. Now, what I did was I combined two Boolean expressions, because int.tryparse is going to return a true or a false. If I scroll over this, you'll see that the value is bool. Right here, you see bool here. That means it's going to return a true or false to me. And that's very important for an if statement, because I need the if statement to know if this is true or false. So if the user gives me a number in the X value or in the X variable, this will return true on parsing. And that's what these two ampersands mean. And this try parse on the left must also be true with the try parse on the right. Both of these must be true in order for this if statement to fall into this line 14. Int.tryparse on the right-hand side is a second Boolean expression that is checking the y to make sure that it's a digit as well before we do any computations on it. If it turns out that one or the other is not a number, this will return false. And if it returns false, it'll fall to the else statement where it says, please enter numbers only. So let's go ahead and test the unhappy path again. I'm very interested to see if this is going to work the way I think it will. So the first things we'll do is we'll test the unhappy path with a letter again. We'll start off with a letter like we did the first time in the unhappy path, A. Now I'm going to enter a 5. Can A be added to 5? Well, if they're strings, of course they can be concatenated, but we're trying to add numbers. Now, if this was Java, you can add A to 5 because the program will convert that string to an integer based on the hexadecimal value. But this is in Java. This is C#. And what that means is you cannot add A to 5. It will not convert A to an integer. So therefore, we'll get the else. Notice that I got the else statement here. Please enter numbers only, because the program determined that one or both of the values that were entered for the read line variables were not integers. They were something else. Let's test the happy path. The happy path means the path that the user is supposed to take. This time we'll do other numbers. Let's say 5 plus 5. And there you go. We got the value. Now, in a nutshell, we actually went over a lot of content here. Not only did we go over parsing and read line, we also went over a form of debugging. We went over a form of data checking to find out if the integer that we asked the user for actually exists in the variable. Here's another unhappy path you might miss if you are not careful. Notice that we are saying int.tryparse if the user at any point in time enters a number with decimals in it. This tryparse will fail because it's looking for whole numbers. In the event that you want to look for a double tryparse, then you need to write that instead. I don't think that exists, but you should write that instead. I don't think double.tryparse exists. I've never seen that before. But there is a trypart, or there's a try for other things. So with all intents and purposes, please take the time to do some research, have some fun with it. Go out there and have a blast. I did put the MSDN article related to this content in the description. Now, as I say in all of my videos, I want you guys to do your best, try your hardest, and give it a good old college try. So, as I say in all of the videos that I record, good luck, have fun, ciao.